think intelligent people believe that they're moral. Oftentimes you'll be talking to somebody and they'll be speaking on somebody that they've met, and they'll say something like, oh, she's really smart or he's really intelligent. And you instantly think, oh, that means that they're a good person. I mean, this is what I think. I can't speak for you, but that's what I think. That's what I envision when I hear that's an intelligent person. And really, I shouldn't even think that, because there is no connection between intelligence and morality. They're completely separate things. But for some reason, and I feel like I've been culturally conditioned this way, which is, I don't know if it's a bad thing or whatnot, but intelligence is often paired with morality. You often think of someone as being either morally superior or generally superior if they're intelligent. And the connotation is not even in the phrasing. The connotation is only in the association you make with the word. And it's a really interesting thing, because a lot of intelligent people are the opposite of good people. And a lot of good people are not that intelligent. But they're still good people. Doesn't even mean that they're wrong. Doesn't mean that they're inferior. It just means that they're more moral. So there's this cultural fixation on making intelligence overlap morality. To be a good person is the same thing as being a smart person, and that's not true. I really do think this way. I used to have this belief that I was smart, which first of all proves that I'm not smart, because any wise person would say that they don't know anything. So instantly, there's that. But crucially, people who believe that they're intelligent see themselves as above other people, even if they're not even aware of that, and even if they try to fight that urge. I think maybe it has something to do with us basically making science our religion. Science is the thing that everyone adheres to in the West. Science has the final say in this, and you should believe science in that. And science is great. It is probably one of the greatest tools that mankind has ever produced. But it cannot be applied to everything. And maybe our attached importance to science has resulted in us perceiving people who are scientifically minded, or even less so, intelligent, as being good. Because we think science is good. And science is not good or bad. It's just science. The pursuit of truth is good. Science aims to pursue truth in the name of other causes, though. And that's where you contaminate the good versus the bad. It's morally ambiguous in some sense. Is this even watchable? People who think that they're smart think they're rational, and smart people are no more or less rational than an average person. Rationality is good in terms of, I guess, problem solving in a vacuum, but if you're a human being, it's kind of impossible to solve problems in a vacuum, because you've got these things called emotions, and they're kind of bouncing around in your head, making you do things that you don't even want to do. You say you don't even want to do. You do want to do them, because why would you do them otherwise? So rationality is a complex thing, because no one is perfectly rational. And no one's perfectly scientifically minded either, because the minute that a scientist leaves his or her laboratory, they're back to being a person. And even while they're in the laboratory, they're probably just still being a person 95% of the time. And maybe our interest with scientists and science being this supreme force, or this supreme structure, maybe that has something to do with the desire for enlightenment. Everyone wants to be enlightened. No one knows what that means. It's a very difficult thing to define. Maybe it's not definable because it varies from person to person. Maybe not. I don't know. But everyone wants to be enlightened. They want to be free, right? Enlightened and free sound very similar. Enlightened, like light. To be illuminated. You can see the whole thing. And that's freeing. But I was thinking about this concept recently, and I actually believe, stay with me on this, I think that being free and being imprisoned are actually the same thing. Why? Anything that frees you instantly becomes the structure that you inhabit. So as soon as you are freed from something, someone, or anything really, the thing that freed you becomes, I guess you would say, your next set of chains, your next prison even, because you can't break out of the box or the cage that you're in, because that is what has freed you. So it leads me to think that I don't know if there is any permanent enlightenment. I don't know if someone could be permanently enlightened. There are moments where people, including I feel this way, where I feel like I've got it. You know, I've captured the lightning in the bottle, and then 5 minutes later, it's gone. You know, and that might be the nature of, what would you say? The nature of knowing something. Because it's impossible to really know everything. There are a few things that you can know, but in large part, you're kind of just going through the world making leaps of faith or going through motions that other people before you have made that have been shown to work. But in terms of actions that you actually make and thoughts that you actually have, original ones are pretty limited. That's because we're all imprisoned by the structure that we inhabit, the structure of culture, our greater societal structure, our greater global civilization even. All of these things are, not to sound like an anarchist, because I don't think that they're bad, prisons though. But interestingly, you can't do anything unless you limit parts of yourself. You know, which basically means you cannot accomplish anything unless you shed parts of your being. Which sucks, right? Because you have to sacrifice parts of who you are to become something that you want to be, or maybe even need to be. And that is in some ways limiting, but in other ways liberating. Liberating because it allows you to progress. To progress in the sense that you can transcend this feeling of being chained for maybe what would be considered a wider and more versatile structure of being even. Because when someone says that they're liberated, they don't mean that they're free. They mean that they're no longer attached to something. It's impossible to be free. But the pursuit of freedom is what drives maybe the moral structure of even the United States. The conviction that you, just by being alive as a human being, are entitled to freedom. People like Sam Harris think that free will doesn't exist. And he could be right, but I don't think he's right. Because if everything was perfect, and this is a Dostoevsky idea, if everything was perfect, we would try to ruin it because it would work too well. You know? I mean, the Italians figured this out. They basically, invented modern government and then decided it wasn't for them, and now they have a new prime minister every 2 weeks. But they seem to do fine. Everyone loves their country, their food is good, people live a very long time if it's not during COVID, because they just don't care. But it's difficult to strike a balance between being yourself, which to me means to be free of the prisons other people and culture and society impose upon you, and being someone who can accomplish something and being a productive person. You have to sacrifice some of your creativity, some of your spontaneity, some parts of you to focus and to sharpen yourself to pierce a single direction. I don't want to sound like a guru right now. I'm really just thinking out loud, but these are some of the conclusions I've been arriving at recently. Like I'll sit and I'll just think. I'll have a scenario in my head, and then I'll run through what I see to be the best possible decision I could make in this scenario. And then I attempt to think it to the bottom, morally. What would be the legacy of this decision? Who will I be in spite of this or because of it? And all these sorts of things. And for me personally, I'm forced to do that because if you don't address the question, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it's bigger than you are. And if it's bigger than you, then it eats you alive. And if it eats you alive, you have to start over again. So every time I come upon a question such as that, I feel even compelled to instantly answer it to the best of my ability and to think it all the way down. Because if I don't, it will grow in the background. I feel like it's a lot like homework. You know, you don't do your homework, you get more homework assigned. The homework gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it's Thursday evening and it's bigger than you can even do. The fuck? Things that you don't tame you. For me, I want to tame everything. Is this interesting? Another problem with doing this format of videos, actually, let's go one step further. Another problem with me making videos is that what I want to be and do changes so rapidly and so fundamentally every single week that I don't even know how to compress and focus my ideas into something that can be presumably enjoyed by you people.